All right, you guys, we're finally at a point in our semester what you guys have been looking for. We are going to be turning to technology. So what I want to do here, back in chapter, I think last week in chapter 1.1, there were some basic things on how to do some graphing. I'm going to review some of those elements as well as help you find some important buttons that you'll be using throughout the semester. Okay? One thing I want to say before I get started on anything else, your calculator is a fantastic tool. All right. However, this is going to sound like a dig, but just think of it as constructive criticism. All right. It's only as smart as the person who's using it. So if you don't know algebra, if you don't know your order of operations, this is a pretty useless tool. So let me clear this out. All right. And so make sure you're watching and you're learning and you're growing and you actually know the algebra behind just all the button pressing. But other than that, let's go do some button pressing. So how do I put this in my calculator? Well, first off, we'll note that the whole thing is divided by 3. So you don't want to type it in like that, right? Because the order of operations, the calculator knows it's going to do this division and then add 5. What I actually want the calculator to do is do the division, or excuse me, do the addition, 5 plus the square root of 11, and divide it by 3. So that is the way you need to put it in your calculator. So parentheses, 5 plus, the square root feature is a secondary feature of x squared, so we're going to press second and then x squared. There's my absolute value, and we're taking the absolute value of 11. Arrow out of the radicand, put your parentheses, divide by 3, and you'll notice what I have on my calculator looks exactly like I have on my paper. Press enter. And we've got let's go 3 decimals. So 2.772, right, is our estimated answer. And let me stop here and just mention that when you guys are using your calculator, right, please, especially on a quiz or a test in the future, right, if you're going to your calculator, I would like to see what you entered in the calculator. Not a blow-by-blow button, but what that input looked like. That way, if you get the next problem wrong, I can go back to your input and kind of point out where you put something in wrong. So it's there to help you, not to be mean to you. So always show what you inputted in your calculator, especially if you're on Canvas and you're trying to get a correction. Show us what the entry looked like, and then obviously your estimate. Okay? So just keep that in mind. So the next one, cube root of -2. Well, again, we know cube roots are fine with negative, so this is a real number. So what real number is it? Well, we got to find the cube root key. To find that, what you're going to do is press math, right? When you open up the math feature, you get a lot of stuff up here, but right now we're in the math menu, if you would. And if you scroll down a couple, just arrow down, arrow down, arrow down, the number 4 feature is your cube root. So press cube root, and the next thing we have to type in is -2. Again, we're going to have to be careful here. This key down here is the negative, and this key up here is a minus sign. So we want the -2, right? Arrow yourself out of the radicand, and there's your cube root of -2. Press enter, and this looks like it's going to be, as a matter of fact, again, notice the input looks exactly like that. So that, again, it looks like what it is, and we get -1.2599. But if I round to 3 decimals, that's going to be 1.260, right? So there's your 3 decimal accuracy for the cube root of -2. Alrighty. Be careful with that negative sign, right? Because if I had let's redo this. Let's go to, let's go to math. You do a cube root. And this time I use the minus sign. If I use the minus sign, right, it's going to give me an error because that means minus. Minus means we're subtracting. What's nice about the feature, when you see that error, I go to, and the calculator usually tells you what's wrong. So what's wrong is that guy. Change it to the negative it should be, this negative down here. Press enter, and there's your answer. All right, so good to go. What about the next one? We got all kinds of crazy things going on. First of all, we got a 4th root of 3 and plus pi. So how do we enter this? Well, if you're going to talk about, again, square roots and cube roots are on the calculator preloaded. 4th roots and above are not. So to start this, you actually need to type 4. All right, so I'll start this, come into my calculator, and I'll type the number 4. Then open your math menu, and you're going to scroll down past the cubed root, there's another feature that has a little unknown index, right? So you're going to basically press that key right there, right? So I've highlighted, just press enter. And the cool thing is it comes back looking exactly the way I want it to. Tell it what the radicand is, in this case is 3, arrow out of there, put a plus sign, and then we got pi. Now you guys know pi to be 3.14 as an estimate, but we don't want to be putting an estimate inside of something I'm already going to estimate. That's actually bad math. So fortunately for us, pi is actually preloaded on your calculator. So there it is. It's right below the little caret, or excuse me, it's right above the caret key that does the powers. There's your pi feature. So it's a secondary feature, so I'll press second and that, and lo and behold, my entry looks exactly like what I have up there, right? So what's the estimate of this crazy thing? Press enter, round off to 3 decimals, 4.45, what is that, 8, right, would be our estimated answer for the 4th root of 3 plus pi. Last but not least, we have a lot of things going on. So again, first thing in terms of putting in my calculator, I'd have to put some parentheses around the top and around the bottom. We're also going to have to go find our absolute value, which I'll show you here in a moment. So here's what this looks like. What I'm going to type in is 5 minus, right? That's the minus key. Oops, I forgot my parentheses. Parentheses, 5 minus, and then we're going to find our absolute value. The absolute value key, if you go back to your math button, if you arrow over, right, there's 4 chapters in this math menu. We're in the math menu. But if you go over to NUM, at the very top, there's a little button that says ABS. That's your absolute value. So press enter, and lo and behold, it comes back to the home screen, and it looks just like the absolute value I want. Now, of course, we know 3 minus 9 is negative 6, but I'm just going to type it in the way it is, right? So there's 3 minus 9, arrow out of there, put my parentheses, there's my numerator. Divide, in my denominator, we have 5 plus, square root of 2, well, that's my second, x squared, press 2, arrow out, close parentheses. So there's basically your input, right? So it looks like 5 minus 3 minus 9, parentheses, and then we were able to type in 5 plus the square root of 2. So there's the input sequence. Press enter. It estimates to negative 0.1559. To 3 decimals, that's negative 0.0156. All right, and so there is some quick knowledge about your calculator and where to find things. Now, right, let's go to the real good feature, the graphing. But I'll do that in a new video. See you guys then.